a name that is recognized the world over. After spending 27 grueling years in prison, he was finally released and went on to become the first black president of a democratic South Africa. Now, the story of Madiba is well known and well documented in books, movies, and various series. The quintessential ZA team and I joined in the centenary celebrations at the Nelson Mandela Annual Lecture with a keynote address by former US President Barack Obama in a star-studded event that saw various guests like Richard Branson, the President of South Africa Cyril Ramaphosa, Patrice Motsepe, King Mswati III, Kofi Annan, Graça Machel, the former President of Botswana Ian Khama, and a host of plenty other world leaders. We grabbed the mic with us, and in true millennial fashion, we spoke to some millennials and some not so millennials about a legacy. We're recording. We're at the Nelson Mandela Lecture, 16th Nelson Mandela Annual Lecture. This one's being done by Barack himself, Obama, OBZ. I'm sitting here with a great gal, good friend, Puno.
Hey, what up, guys?
Puno, how do you feel about, first of all, leading up to this, how did you feel like leading up to the lecture itself?
I was really, really surprised, and I was shocked at the fact that he was coming to begin with. I couldn't actually believe it. I think I double-checked the website and all these things like 10 times. And then I was just really excited. I can't wait even now just to hear what he has to say. We've all, I think, looked up to him from the moment that he started.
And as an orator, Obama is a fantastic orator. I mean, I've watched him give a speech in Kenya. Without a single piece of paper, he gave a 40-minute speech. So I'm keen to see how he speaks, but also what he speaks about, because the theme of today is Be the Legacy. How do you feel about Mandela's legacy in South Africa?
Well, his legacy for me is one of peace and one of logic. A thoughtful leader.
He wasn't a very radical type of leadership.
No, and I prefer that to sort of the more radical approach things. However, if I can be real for a second, I do think we have sort of made him a god and have idolized him, which I feel like is really worrying, and I don't think it's something we should do because it stops us from being able to recognize the leaders that are present now and to come, and other leaders of the past that were there. And also, he's just a man. Like, yes, he was amazing, he was great, he did his things, but every man is flawed, and I don't think we should have rose-tinted glasses when it comes to that.
So I am standing here with
Thandi.
Thandi, how old are you?
I'm 29.
Would you consider yourself a millennial?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Right. So, how did you feel when you heard that Barack Obama, OBZ, was coming to give a speech here?
Honestly, I lost my mind. I went mad.
Is it?
Yeah, definitely. I'm such a huge fan of his. I love his speeches. I could quote them verbatim. So to get to see him live.
Do you want to give us one?
Not really. Can't remember them now that I'm on the spot. What?
Yeah, I mean, I thought I'd challenge you. What do you feel about let's start with Obama's legacy. What legacy do you feel that Barack Obama has left for the American people, but more specifically the world and Africans as well?
Well, sadly, I can't talk for American people. I meet a lot of American people who are critical of his legacy, especially when I meet my fellow black Americans. A lot of them say they don't feel like he did enough for them. But looking from the outside in, I definitely think he gave me the sense that I can do anything I want. I never thought in my lifetime, or at least this young in my lifetime, I'd see a black president in America. And if he can go for something that big, what other fates can I achieve? What can I accomplish? It's just made me feel like, the sky's my limit.
Okay, I have met another lovely, great member of Quintessential ZA, Taylor Welch. Taylor, how are you doing?
Good, and you, Silla?
Cold but good. I forgot my jacket, but you know what? I try to dress up in reasonably presentable manner.
Silla, you look like the president, the former president of the US.
They say dress for the job you want, not for the job you have.
Fair play, fair enough, eh?
Okay, first question is, what do you feel about? Okay, how did you feel? Of course, we received our media passes and everything. How did you feel when you found out that Obama is going to deliver the keynote speech at the Nelson Mandela Lecture?
Overwhelmed, really, because this is going to sound super cheesy, but we are an African country, and I know we've got a lot of press outside South Africa, but I mean, he's such a big name to actually come to our country and to deliver this speech at such a it's such a great occasion for us, for South Africans. I mean, it's the 16th annual Nelson Mandela Lecture, and I think it's just awesome that he's going to be a part of it, and he's actually going to gonna say something about it. And you know, what's really funny was last night I was actually watching ENCA and Cyril Ramaphosa was in there, and someone asked him, you know, you have to be on the same platform as Donald Trump, you have to meet Donald Trump, all of that. And, you know, they were trying to get it into his head like, you know, they kind of wanted him to say, are you for or against Trump? And of course, you know, our president cannot say for or against. And you know what, at the end of the day, it's because it's due to international relationships and international relations and exchange and all of that. So the fact that we know that Cyril Ramaphosa and President Barack Obama, or former President Barack Obama, are actually here today having a meeting before his lecture, that just kind of warms my heart a bit.
I think it really does. I mean, looking at all that you just mentioned, Cyril Ramaphosa was sort of pressed to take a stance.
Exactly.
And we also have to take a stance with certain things. Like if I was to put myself in Cyril's shoes, it would also be very tricky for me. But as a young person today, with so many issues, whether it's things like race or gender or culture, we are almost always forced to be in like to have a certain opinion. I want to ask I want to sort of put you in that hard place and ask you, what do you feel about Nelson Mandela's legacy in itself? I know there's lots of naysayers who say that Mandela was a sellout. At the same time, there's lots of people who say Mandela was a saint and he did exactly what he could in a peaceful approach. How do you feel about Mandela's legacy?
So Mandela actually has a special place in my heart. Reason being, I was born in the 1994, 27th of April, Freedom Day, the first democratic election. My parents were actually going to call me Nelson if I was a boy. Like it was like.
So they called you Nelsonita.
They should have actually. Come on, mom and dad. But no, so he has a very special place in my life because I guess throughout, you know, growing up, my parents have always reminded us, my brother included, of the history that we've come from. And you know, Taylor, you were born on such a great day. You need to fulfill the legacy. You need to look at what he did. You need to take the legacy with you and then create your own. And I think that's so important for other millennials to understand is, yes, it's history, but guys, just because history happened in the past does not mean that it's not going to reflect your future. And I feel that
history always repeats itself.
Exactly. And how can we know where we're going? Well, we know where we're going from where we've been. So I think it's very important to take these people like Nelson Mandela and look at what they went through and their whole life and actually take what they've been through, what they've done, and how they've actually changed a nation. Really, he has, and I know it wasn't single-handedly, you know, I know, I'm well aware, but he is our peace symbol at the end of the day. And I truly believe that Nelson Mandela is South Africa's peace symbol. And what a better legacy to have than to be a peace symbol of a nation. So
that to me is everything. It's fantastic. Thank you so much, Taylor. All right, so I am here with Diala. How old are you?
I'm 15.
Do you consider yourself part of the millennials?
No, not really.
Okay. But you are probably going to be the next generation after the millennials, right?
Yeah, probably.
All right. How do you feel about Nelson Mandela's legacy in South Africa?
I feel like it's a legacy that not everyone of my generation quite understands. We get the gist of it, and we still have a lot to learn, the in-depth meaning of it, and we're just trying to understand his and understand everyone else's as well.
You're young, 15 years old. Obviously, you're probably going to be someone great in South Africa. What kind of legacy would you like to leave for people who are going to come after you?
I don't think there's a particular legacy I would like to be known for. I would just like to kind of just help people and give people somewhere. I don't need to be known for my legacy or be like, oh, that's Diallo, she was known for this and that. I just want to kind of help people and change a few lives. I don't have to I don't feel like I want a legacy I just want to make sure everyone's okay and everyone is on the same wavelength and equity and equality is achieved.
All right, thank you. You need help. Shall I help you up?
You didn't embarrass me, eh?
Shall I help you up?
I'm not wasting my school fees. No.
All right, we are here with
Audrey Longway.
Audrey, I don't know if I want to ask you your age, but I'm going to ask you, do you consider yourself a millennial?
Definitely not. I think that's clear.
All right. I'm gonna ask you some of the questions that I had asked Puno. First things first. How did you feel when you heard that Obama was coming to give the keynote speech?
A part of me was definitely excited. I think in terms of globally, what he's done a lot. But I also understand that it wasn't perfect, you know. And for me, we as black people, we need symbolisms. And I think Obama is that. And we can take it away that he's not perfect.
And speaking of people that aren't perfect, Nelson Mandela himself is now, his legacy is coming under criticism, and some people are saying he's a sellout. How do you feel about the legacy that he left? Where do you stand in terms of the sellout versus not sellout crowd around Mandela's legacy?
I think in the time that I grew up and being part of the struggle, obviously in that way, Mandela will always be great to me. And what he kept a nation going, and I think it was him and more other people as well, but I think obviously Mandela was in the forefront and his face was it, not forgetting the other people as well. Being a sellout, I mean, I don't want to cut him slack, but I think it's great that we can recognize and we are able as people to voice and let it be a learning curve for us to come still. And to fulfill those kind of roles. I think we've got a long way to go in terms of the fight.
One more question. Can I ask her a question?
Okay, you want to ask your question?
So I see that you brought your daughter with you today. Why was it important for you to have your daughter with you to watch the lecture?
We actually had a long discussion because I've decided that I'm not sending her to school today. I think as black girls, we need men that's out there that can be role models to them. I think we live in a society where there's so much evil around men and women abuse and child abuse. So it was important for me. I think this is one of the greatest lessons she's probably going to learn in her life, and it's part of her education. And that's why I chose to keep her from school and bring her here rather.
Who am I standing here with?
Ugaga Ujo.
And how old are you?
28.
Would you consider yourself a millennial?
Yes.
All right, perfect. So we are asking about Nelson Mandela's legacy. Just in terms of looking at African leaders, right? Specifically South Africa. Do you think that they have gotten the mantle properly of the kind of legacy that they should leave?
I think that's not a yes or a no. I think that with everything you have kind of people who have the better side, who want to be on the better side of history, and those that don't necessarily. So I think we're having a struggle. I don't think that we can say everyone is on the right path or everyone's on the wrong path per se. There's good and bad in our leadership structures. That's across the continent. I think what's more important is that Obama actually says this in one of his documentaries called The Final Year, that the most important role in any society is that of citizen. And I think that it's something that we all need to take seriously, and we effectively drive our legacy going forward. You and I, as citizens and residents of whichever country we occupy, we are the most important people. We determine what our leaders should do, and we importantly should hold them to account. So that's my view in terms of African leadership, that we are effectively leaders. We put people in power to represent us, and I think we need to take that power back.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much. Perfect.
Thank you.
So we are standing here with
Greg Kuzmak.
Greg. You're very tall, so I'm going to move closer to you.
Okay.
Greg, what do you feel about Barack Obama's legacy? Since we are at the Nelson Mandela lecture and Barack is giving a keynote speech, what do you feel about Barack Obama's legacy that he left in America, but primarily in the world?
Oh my God, I'm so nervous.
Don't be nervous. This is like speaking to me. Pretend like the microphone's not there. Pretend like it's a chocolate.
Okay. I feel like I'm being interviewed. I feel like he really kind of changed the conversation and helped us kind of open our eyes to some new ideas and new people, particularly in the United States, the first black African-American president.
Sorry, are you American?
I am, yeah.
Oh, perfect. So how do you feel about the Obama era? Do you feel like he left a good legacy for the United States of America, or perhaps he should have done better?
No, I think he definitely did the best he could in leaving a good legacy. It's difficult because, given what's occurring now in the United States, I think it puts a bit of a damper on some of the things that he did. You know, I'm a healthcare person, so the Affordable Care Act is a huge thing for me. Kind of aiming for the U.S. to someday get to universal healthcare was huge for me. So that's for me is like one thing that really stands out about his legacy.
Okay, perfect. The theme was titled Renewing the Mandela Legacy and Promoting Active Citizenship in a Changing World. The speech also focused on creating conditions for bridging divides, working across ideological lines, and resisting oppression and inequality.
So if we are serious about universal freedom today, if we care about social justice today, then we have a responsibility to do something about it. And I would respectfully amend what Madiba said. I don't do it often, but I'd say it's not enough for us to protest. We're going to have to build. We're going to have to innovate. We're going to have to figure out how do we close this widening chasm of wealth and opportunity, both within countries and between them. And how we achieve this is going to vary country to country. And I know your new president is committed to rolling up his sleeves and trying to do so. But we can learn from the last 70 years that it will not involve unregulated, unbridled, unethical capitalism. It also won't involve old-style command and control socialism from the top. That was tried. It didn't work very well. For almost all countries, progress is going to depend on an inclusive market-based system, one that offers education for every child, that protects collective bargaining and secures the rights of every worker, that breaks up monopolies to encourage competition in small and medium-sized businesses, and has laws that root out corruption and ensures fair dealing in business, that maintains some form of progressive taxation.
I just wanted to get back to the entrepreneurship and what he called inclusive capitalism in this speech. I think it was because, South Africa is this country that kind of swings between socialism and capitalism so much. Yeah. So for him to kind of take a stance and say inclusive capitalism is the way forward, especially for entrepreneurs, especially for a company like we're trying to run with Quintessential ZA. We have this opinion that we want to build the new nation with the next generation, and I think that this was very important in that respect as well. But just in terms of like African capitalism, do you think he's getting it right? Is inclusive capitalism the way forward? What would you say, Silla?
Personally, when he spoke about capitalism, he did speak also about socialism and about saying that a lot of people they have their mindset on this capitalistic way of outlook of things. But then he did say as well that China is also has a big influence on how we do things. So I'm actually currently caught between a rock and a hard place, because yes, you want capitalism, or yes, the world wants capitalism, but we have to look at some socialist outlooks as well. Because with capitalism, the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. And because we are young people, we want equality. But how can you have equality when the economy in itself does not allow equality? How can you have equality when the rich guy or the top 1% is earning this much and the rest of that is not earning that much money? So for me, it's very questionable. I'm currently in a socioeconomic stage where I don't know if I want capitalism or socialism. So I don't know. You're
not the only one.
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of millennials who actually think like that as well. But another thing that he mentioned was he spoke a lot about artists and being creative. Yeah. Puna, what did you take away from that? You must have been like, click, 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 click. I can't click my fingers, but you must have been like, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm for any leader that puts us as creatives on. And it's the responsibility of those who have a voice to be like, hey, let's make way for these other people that are overlooked and are actually really important as the politician, as the businessman, etc. So it honestly just felt good to know that we are seen and that we're understood,
Yeah, I think in summary, to think about this lecture in the political sense is, look, we have 2019 coming. We also, before that, have the Global Citizen Festival coming up. And there's a lot of these things that are happening in terms of what the ruling party is putting out in front of people. And you know what, I was also interested in how Obama was talking about departing tribalism as an idea. Like, we should not be fleeing to our tribes. But in South Africa, we have a lot of these things like tribalism. And I mean, we had the Zulu King sitting in the audience. So I mean, there's a lot of things to take away from this, but will we apply it necessarily in South Africa? I'm worried that we potentially won't, and I think that's where we are at the moment. How do you feel about that?
So the thing that I worry about is that us thought leaders and thinkers and people who, come together sit in these lectures and it doesn't trickle down to where it really matters. I mean, he mentioned even briefly about xenophobia and, like you said, tribalism. Will that really trickle down to the streets of Soweto or Mamelodi or Atteridgeville? Are we brave enough to make sure that it trickles down there? So I am concerned. It's a lovely notion, but will it really get down to where it really matters? Yeah.
For sure. Thanks. And last words from you, Salam.
I had a really good time. For me, it was an honor and a privilege to be with you guys, first of all. Thank you. And secondly, with world leaders, I've never seen a speech given by Obama, and I must say, for me, it was electrifying. I wanted to tweet every single quote you were saying, but my multitasking skills are very poor, so I had to listen. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
I think, like Pino said, we don't want this to just fizzle out. It's something that you got to constantly think about, and that's one thing that I'm going to take away from it. I'm going to truly go home and think. I did take some notes. I thought I was the only person, but I was taking notes because it's the right thing to do, and luckily it is available on YouTube, so you can always go and check it out again.
A special shout out to Quintessential TV for some of the audio provided in this podcast. If you would like to get in touch with the Millennial Exchange, send us an email at millennialexchange@qessential.co.za.